Okay, BC Calc kids, it pays to do these the long way, just so you can understand there is a long way to do it, and to understand that you can take the shortcut that we're going to take. Okay, so the integral of t squared dt is t cubed over 3, right? Our bounds of integration are 1 to x. Now, we're going to get the derivative of this after the fact, okay? So we're going to find the derivative of x cubed over 3 minus 1/3. Well, the derivative of x cubed over 3 is 3x squared over 3. The derivative of negative 1/3 is 0, so we get x squared. Okay? So it makes sense that your derivative, okay, is just going to be x squared. So what we could do, if you look at the structure of the original question, is if you're getting the derivative of an integral and the upper bound is just x, just simply substitute in the x. So if I have the derivative of the integral from 1, well, this could even be 4. The lower bound doesn't matter because it's going to be a constant. 4 to x of square root of t dt, it will just be square root of x. Okay? All right, next, we get the antiderivative of cosine, which is sine, right? We have our upper bound is x, lower bound is pi over 6, and then we're going to get the derivative. So we have sine x minus sine pi over 6. Now, when we get the derivative of this, the derivative of sine is just cosine. And the derivative of a constant is 0. So look at what we just get, just cosine x. So we could have just put the x in to begin with. So the second fundamental theorem of calculus tells us that when the upper bound is x and the lower bound is some constant, it's just f of x. That's simple. Okay, now, when we switch the bounds of integration around, hopefully it's going to make common sense to you that you just switch them back around and it becomes the negation, right? Well, let's do it. So we get t cubed over 3, upper bound is 4, lower bound is x. Are you seeing the negative yet? So we're going to get the derivative of this after the fact, right? So we have the derivative with respect to x of 4 cubed, well, 4 cubed is 64 over 3 minus x cubed over 3. Okay, but this is a constant, so the derivative is going to be 0. And then we get negative 3x squared, okay, over 3. So do you see that we just get negative x squared? So when the lower bound is x, we just negate it. So this is just the opposite of f of x. Okay, so now they give us an example here. Okay, they're saying the upper bound is x squared. Okay, so this one's a little different. It's not just linear. So the antiderivative of cosine is sine, right? So the upper bound is x squared. So we get sine x squared minus sine pi over 6. Do you see already that there's going to be a chain rule involved here when we get this derivative? Well, that derivative is 0. Sine is cosine, leave the inner function in, times 2x. So the way this works, if the upper function is something other than just x, because technically when we multiply by the derivative, if the inner function's x, would be multiplied by 1. This would just be f of x times g prime of x. Or we can write it as g prime of x times f of x. Okay, so looking at these examples here, I put in my upper bound. That's an example of the top rule. So I just get the square root of 1 plus x squared. Second one here, I just put an x tangent x cubed. Third one here, I'm going to put in the x cubed for t, but I'm going to multiply by 3x squared. So I get 3x squared over 1 plus x cubed. Next one, I'm going to multiply by the derivative of sine, which is cosine. And then I have to put in my sine in place of my t, sine x. Okay, the last one, okay, this one's a doozy. Number one, this could be split up. So you can split it up into x to some constant a plus some constant a to x squared, right? So for the first part, we just negate it and put in the x. For the second part, we have to multiply by the derivative of x squared and substitute an x squared for t. Okay, hope that makes sense. Okay, this is a function defined as an integral. Okay, how do we know this? We integrate a rate. So this graph of f is the graph of g prime of x. Okay, so when we go to find g of 0, use properties of integrals, g of 0 is just 0. G of negative 1 is going to be the area going from 0 to negative 1. So we're going backwards. So since we're above the curve but going backwards, it's going to be negative. Negative what? Half times 1 times 2, so that's negative 1. G of 2 is going to be g of 0, right? Plus the integral from 0 to 2 of f of t dt. Okay, t is just a dummy variable, guys. So all I do is I go to the graph and I get the area from 0 to 2. This is a quarter of a circle with a radius of 2, sorry. So we get 1/4 pi r squared. So that's just pi. Okay, g of 5 is the same as g of 2 plus the amount that accumulated from 2, right, to 5. Well, from 2 to 5, this area is negative. Okay, this is a 1. Okay, this is 1, this is 1. And then this entire piece here is also 1. So you get 4. So I get g of 5 is g of 2, which is pi, plus 4. Find the values in the open interval at which g has a relative max. Well, this is the graph of the derivative, right? G prime. So g would have a relative max where the derivative goes from positive to negative, so that's at 2. So you would say at x equals 2 because g prime of x goes from positive to negative. Find the absolute min value of x at which it occurs. So you have your candidates. Okay, your candidates are your zeros, right, and your endpoints. So we're going to have negative 1 as a candidate. We're going to have 5 as a candidate. My other candidate will be positive 2. Okay, I'm looking for the absolute min of g, so I'm looking for g. Okay, so g of negative 1, I already know is negative 1. G of 2 is pi, and g of 5 is pi plus 4. So the min, find the absolute min. The abs min is negative 1, okay? And this occurs at x equals negative 1, as shown by the candidates test or closed interval test. Okay, for question D, find the x-coordinate of each point of inflection. So a point of inflection on the graph of the derivative is where the derivative goes from, the slope of the derivative goes from positive to negative or vice versa, right? So here, let's think about what happens. The slope is positive from here to here. The slope of the derivative, because this is the derivative function in front of us, then the slopes are negative. Okay, so at x equals 0 is one answer. Okay, the slopes are still negative, negative, negative. Then here at 1, 2, 3, at 3, the slopes also change. The slopes of the slope go from negative to positive. So you would say at x equals 0 and x equals 3, because the slopes of the graph of f change sign. Okay, so let's continue on to all right, so in this first problem we want to know where f is decreasing. So f would be decreasing where it's derivative, right, where f prime is less than 0. So let's get f prime. Well, f prime, we use the fundamental theorem of calculus, is x plus 2 times x minus 3 squared. Set that equal to 0. Do a little, do a little sign graph. Okay, you need to label this as the sign of f prime. So to the left of negative 2, it's negative. To the right of negative 2, and to the right of 3, it's positive. So therefore, for what values of x? F of x is decreasing for x is less than negative 2. Okay, it doesn't ask me to explain why, so why bother? Okay, so for the next question, I use the fundamental theorem of calculus. I get the derivative of each side. So f of x is 6x. Now they want me to find the value of c, right? Keep in mind that f of t is just a dummy variable. So I'm going to replace f of t with 6x from c to x. So I end up with 3x squared from c to x, which is 3x squared minus 3c squared. Okay, but keep in mind that this part here is equal to negative 12. Okay? So think about it, right? That's my f of x. So when I'm looking at my derivative, okay, my derivative, I have f of x is 6x, okay, but I integrated my derivative, and that gave me 3x squared minus 12, okay, which makes sense because I had to get the derivative of 3x squared minus 12 to get f of x, right? So f of x was the derivative, keep that in mind, of 3x squared minus 12. So here, okay, I got my function 3x squared minus 3c squared. Okay, so now that means that this negative 3 squared, negative 3c squared, is equal to negative 12. So when you solve this, you're going to get c equals plus or minus 2. Okay, another way to do this is to say 3x squared minus 12 is the integral from c to x of 6t dt. Whoops. So 3x squared minus 12 is equal to 3t squared. Okay, I just got the antiderivative from c to x. So you could say 3x squared minus 12 equals 3x squared minus 3c squared. It may be easier for some of you to see that then when you solve for c, you get plus or minus 2, because these 3x squareds would cancel out.